Hey, everybody, I'm Jody Vance.
And I'm George-Affleck.
And it's time for.
Here comes Santa Claus, here comes Santa Claus, right down Santa Claus, unspun.
Ooh, Elvis.
Oh, that's right. Thank you very much. Try the veal.
That was pretty good. McLean's going to love that. He loves it when you sing. He loves it when you sing.
Well,
I'm
Santa
okay with
Claus,
it.
because we have our Santa Claus, I feel, in the valley out there. or the
You know
Mayor
what?
of Abbotsford, he's like, he's working hard for all of
Henry
us.
Braun.
Henry Braun.
Henry Braun, hasn't he just been unbelievable over these? I know we spend a lot of time on Unspun pointing to the places where politics is really crappy.
Yeah.
Um, let's give him some love here. I mean, the availability, the vulnerability, the accountability, the knowing what he doesn't know. Like, I think that's what I find so refreshing. There's very
hmm
little spin associated with the mayor of Abbotsford, Henry Braun. What's your take on the mayor?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I've met him when I was in office. Very nice guy, just normal. He's a former CEO of a railway company. Runs a farm. He's got a bunch of animals. He's 71. I had a chance. Vancouver Sun did a profile of him yesterday. If you have a chance to read that, it's quite interesting. Crazy hours he's working right now, like sleeping 3 to 4 hours a night. Best case 4 or 5 now. But I think it's a very matter of factness about him that I think that's the key in crisis. People just want calmness. They want matter of fact information. Tell me that Brad West is doing it too.
Yeah.
Just here's the details. Here's what you need to know. Here's what we're doing. Good question. I don't know the answer to that. I'll get back to you. This is basic crisis communications at its best. There's always going to be criticisms of him. I'm sure out there. There are people who hate Henry Braun. I'm sure I've known a couple of them for whatever reasons. But for in general, you look at what's been thrown on his back in this last couple of weeks. This is not what he signed up for. He never would have expected this, and he's dealt with it. He's led the whole province, if not the country. He's been on BBC. He's everywhere, and I think it's a testament to his calmness, which I think is really important in politics.
He kind of makes me pine for you to be the mayor of Vancouver. I'm just saying, because that's the type of communicator that you were when you were a city councillor and that you are
Mhm.
now, and in the work that you do now, that we do this, because this is very much who you are. I feel like when I see Henry Braun speaking from Abbotsford, watching the press briefing today, I loved it. I have to point this out because I actually watched it and then I listened to it back again because he talked about his wife. He goes,
Right.
I couldn't do this without her. And he goes, not that she has anything to do with, running the city of Abbotsford or my office or what have you, but she's been
hmm
so supportive of me and in all of my trials and tribulations and trying to figure this out. Because there have been times where I thought we wouldn't make it through. And the good news is that Abbotsford now has sort of put up the flag that says we made it through the
Yeah.
three atmospheric rivers and all of the pieces that had to come together in order to protect that community. But $2 billion is what he just threw out there. It's likely going
Ugh.
to cost $2 billion.
Just
And
to
he goes,
fix it.
just to fix it. And he goes, and to put that into perspective, our budget is 160 million. So
Yes.
someone's going to have to help us. There's a
Which is
lot to unpack here.
1/10 of the city of Vancouver's, by the way. And
Which I want to get.
yes, but and to the spouse issue, but it's actually your network when you're in politics, and people leave politics. And I kind of this is one of my, it's a lot of work for everybody around you too. You're obsessed with it. When you get in office, it's all consuming. People can be cruel to you. The people around you see you getting exhausted or hurt or whatever, and so sometimes it's hard for them to support you in a way because they feel bad. They don't want. They're saying, "Get out of that. Why are you doing this? Why would you put yourself through all this? Like you're not making enough money to do that. And that's the question you ask yourself if you're in politics for the right reasons. I think
Yeah,
is this
worth
am I
it.
is it taking a toll on my body and on my relationships? So it's not a joke when politicians say they're leaving because of family reasons. Family in politics means the people around you and yourself. It's your own, you're part of your family as well. And I think it's a valid reason. And to have him say that about his partner is important. And kudos to anybody around him that he's had in politics, by the way, as you know, we've talked about this before. You can only trust a few people with most of the stuff that you can talk about with freely in politics. It's very, very, it's a game. And I get attacked when I was in office, and I would say that in council. And I remember Raymond Louis was just like, "This is not a game." I'm like, "Oh my god, okay, not
What you
always, but
just did right there was a
yeah,
play right there.
yeah,
That was a
you
move that
know,
you just did.
yeah,
Yeah, no, it's so something.
it's
Let's
gamemanship, anyways. Okay, let's put it that way.
can I get the unspun perspective on what is new today with regard to Abbotsford is that it's been unearthed, pardon the pun, that there is a 10-year-old, a decade-old survey on
Mm-hmm.
what will fail.
The dikes and yeah,
Yeah, the systems in
the same as
place.
the
That
Coquihalla, right?
they
Coquihalla
call
had a report like
they
that
called it
too.
all.
Whoa,
Yeah.
what's going on? What's happening? Why? I mean, bureaucracy? No.
Yeah, I guess. Is it because
I mean, I
everybody
think
shreds when there's a new government that you shred the
a
stuff?
little
Like, is
bit. I
that
think so. You always, we look what the biggest example would be the bridge that was going to replace the tunnel.
right?
Let's shred that multi-billion-dollar project and replace it with another more expensive, not as good project. It's like because we're a new government, it's nonsense, and it happens all the time in government, and it's costs taxpayers money, and it creates problems in the future. And Coquihalla Highway and what's happening in Abbotsford are perfect examples of that. And what we see on the highways when you drive right now from Vancouver to White Rock, you see every day the challenge that causes, the dangers that causes. There's dangers every day for those people who travel through that tunnel, and dangers in Abbotsford, as we've seen over the last couple of weeks, and certainly Coquihalla, and people died on these highways in the last month because government didn't do its job.
Infrastructure
Whatever
is a big
government,
deal. And I want
NDP,
to,
Liberals, it doesn't matter. That, by the
doesn't
way,
matter. No,
that's not
no,
an attack on the NDP.
no.
This is a successive governments didn't finish the job.
Right. And we're learning the lessons the very, very hard way and in some instances,
Mm-hmm.
tragically. I want to get back to the infrastructure piece in a bit because I saw an
Yeah.
article in that just kind of blew my mind, and I want to talk it through with you. But before we go there, where
Here's my
are we
cup
on
today, by
the?
the way. My
What does
cup
yours
today.
say? I'm
This is,
not
I'm not feeling
feeling
very
very
worky today.
worky.
Got this from
Hey,
my son last year.
I got my
Nice.
City of Vancouver because I
Nice.
love
Oh,
my
okay.
town, even though I'm not so happy with City Hall. Where? How many speakers have?
My name, my name's on that bridge, by the way. You have there, that Burrard Bridge.
Is it?
It's the ongoing joke in my family because they put our plaque on the Burrard Bridge with all the councillors' names when they finished the big project there, which I voted against. I voted against.
Oh my God, that's hysterical.
Yeah. Anyways, uh,
So budgets. That plaque was in the budget.
budget. Yes, budget. Ugh,
How
this
many,
is
how
Budget
many
Week in
speakers?
Vancouver.
Yes.
Well, yeah, this is Budget Week in Vancouver for those, and Budget Week in most municipalities. This will be the last budget for most communities across BC before the next election. Vancouver's budget is 1.8 billion, I think it is. A 5% minimum tax increase on a property tax, but that's not including all the other service fees increases. Departmental increases all over the map. We talked about this last week. One department getting 37% increase, another
37%.
one for 1.9% for it's. And I just did a tweet about this. This is me with the 2022 budget. Blow it up.
Right?
Blow it up. 120 speakers. They, as of yesterday, I think they got through 10 or 15. They are, the budget process, and it's hearing from the public. It's not attacking the public. It's not belittling the public. It's called
The
hearing
listening.
from the public and listening. And you don't have to ask them questions. You can just thank you very much, thank you very much. You get clarifying questions. There's no reason to attack, but the kinds of questions this council, if you have a chance to watch, I'm sorry, but it's too much. It's not fair, and every councillor gets 5 minutes, and the mayor gets 5 minutes to talk to each of these people. That's 5 times 11. That's 55 minutes each
Per
person.
person.
Yeah, I don't know how many 100 times 55. You're talking will be done in 2023.
So can I ask you, pardon my novice on this.
Yes.
Typically, would every counselor and the mayor ask every person who came to speak at council, would they always take their 5 minutes?
They no. I mean, of course, no. They shouldn't. unless they really need clarification.
Right, right.
But this council seems to be, it's one-upmanship. It's
They're making,
they don't like the person for whatever reason. They think they're a, there's always these theories that these people are it's all rigged and these people were brought in by whoever or whatever. And sure, sometimes that happens. You pack the room with supporters to get your whatever through, but it doesn't matter. Who cares? And if they are, just okay, let them talk. You still
yeah,
have to make your decision. It's just one component of your decision-making process, the public part. You are there to represent the public. 110 speakers is not a big chunk of the city. And so you have to take that in as one, as I said this many times, just one of the components of your decision-making process in office. It's not the only thing that you should consider. So it's really, it's just, and so they take all this time, and we saw this story a couple of weeks ago. I think it was Justin McElroy from the CBC posted this about how much more time Vancouver City Council takes to get things done in council comparatively
yeah.
to other. It's like ridiculous. It's
It's
ridiculous. It
ridiculous.
was bad before when I was there, but it's bad now. Worse.
Reading that Justin info pack was mind-boggling. It's like when it's laid out in a really pragmatic kind of, just so you know,
Just so you know,
like
just so you
who's
don't want to
running the
know.
place? Like, but where's the grown-up in the room that's like, guys, we're achieving nothing here. The infrastructure is broken. The
Well, there's no
the
whip.
the
There's no
systems
whip.
are broken, right?
There's
But
no
even
whip.
like the firefighter news today, like, and within that budget, within the story about property taxes going up and what's in it for fire and ambulance services, but fire in particular, saying,
Mhm.
and I'm no expert on this, but these things peak for me as a citizen of the city, thinking like, this isn't like arguing over whether or not we should spend X number of dollars on an art installation, or if that building has this
Mhm.
too much or that too much or whatever. We're talking about response to emergencies, right? Like when we're already having issues with e-coms, and there's a larger issue at play here with an opioid crisis and a global pandemic and a
And
natural
they,
disaster
yeah.
and a state of emergency. And we're talking about fewer firefighters moving forward in a city that's growing. It just, to me, it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Well, there's the old argument. I don't know if you ever saw that TV show called, oh God, was Da Vinci's City Hall or whatever? It followed. He became the mayor of the city. It was
Yep.
indicative. It was basically, and one other thing. This is not actually. It's not far from the truth. The biggest battle that quite often exists in certainly in British Columbia is the battle between the fire department and the emergency services, like the ambulance guys, because different union, different. They
Right.
have this battle over
Totally
funding.
different. Yeah.
So but they have this battle over whose responsibilities are what, and why can't we work together? We're doing so many of the same things. The fire department's arguing in Vancouver that they have been relied upon for the opioid crisis in a big way, and it's stressful and it's taken its toll on its members. But in effect, the actual fires in Vancouver have gone down significantly as a ratio of residents by a lot, partly because we have mandated sprinklers in Vancouver, where you don't have that anywhere else in the province. So sprinklers
Right.
are a huge factor. So actually, we have
Helpful. Yeah.
more calls in the downtown area for water damage than we do for fires.
Fires. Great.
But guess who comes to deal with that? It's usually the fire department. So it's all about roles and responsibilities. And are we? So the question and I think they're trying to point out in this budget is that we're doing a lot more things than we signed up for, and we should be compensated for that, either with staffing or with money or both. We have good justification for that, and this council, probably because staff will argue that if you're looking for places to save, the council have said a 5% tax increase is all we're going to allow this year. They voted for that, and so every department needs to find money, because it just through attrition, just through basic inflation of things,
For sure.
5%, given what's going on, is it's minimum. So
Yeah.
that means they have to cut or find 2% or 1% as an
But when you
increase
look
to
at that
get.
line item on the budget, like you said, that one department that's got their budget's going up 37%. How is that justified when we're looking at emergency response for citizens? And even like we talked about,
Priorities.
you said there
Mm-hmm.
was going to be 7% increase in city cleaning, street cleaning and garbage and whatnot, which made me like do a little backflip. I shouldn't be
Yeah.
backflipping over the fact that we're actually going to maybe get back to cleaning the city. Like it's just, you know,
I know.
I'm
It's like,
surrounded by graffiti. And you know what? Not offensive graffiti, I might add. I'm not surrounded by offensive graffiti. It's like
mhm.
somebody's got some poetry written on that pole, and over there's some hearts on the back of something, and there's a heart over there. Like they're artsy, but it's graffiti. Like, and this,
Yeah. The direction has to come from council, and budgets are created by the senior management team. There's about 6 of these senior managers, basically each departmental managers. How they get along in the behind the scenes is hard to say. Obviously,
right,
the mayor doesn't get along with the police chief right now. And is that indicative of what's going on behind the scenes with management? I don't know. Does the city manager get along with the police chief? We don't know. But there are certainly the decision making of how you do budgeting comes from the department. So they have to work together somehow
somehow,
to make the decisions. And so each department will be fighting for their own whatever they want. But at the end of the day, the priorities should come from council. And if any new council that came in, what this new council should have done 3 years ago, there was, and I said this then when we were doing our podcast, there's no rush for this budget. They have until April. I think I wrote I think I wrote an op-ed, but I can't remember. Anyways,
you
there's no
did.
rush. There's no rush to do this budget. They can wait several months before they have to implement it. The city can operate just fine without a budget. So they let, when they got elected, this new council of this ragtag team of whatever, they should have taken a step back and looked at the budget that I left behind, that I voted against, by the way. That was, more than I would have ever liked from a budget increase. And any of the people who created that budget were gone, except for Adrian Carr and Melissa de Genova. So they had a chance then to say, let's start from scratch. Let's go to zero and build from there. What do we want to prioritize? Instead, what do? Put 200 motions on the floor throughout the next couple of years about
Right.
things that
Bog
they're
it
only their
down.
pet projects. And guess what that does? That adds money to the budget, whether it be a 37% increase in this area or a 4% increase or a 10% here, zero, negative. I mean, this is the challenge when you have a council that's so all over the map, so focused on their own little things that they want to get so that they can get reelected. They're not thinking of of the city as a whole,
Right.
and it's totally irresponsible of this council as a whole. I know there are voices on this council that say they're saying what I'm saying, but they didn't do it, and so therefore they should all really, in October, I think the people of this city need to look at this council and go, "What have you guys done? What have you achieved?" You can
But
talk
then
about the
what
housing, but all
actions?
the housing that Kennedy-Stewart talks about is pretty much what we approved when I was there.
Right.
Almost all of it. So
So
he can't take credit for
important.
that.
Let's do the unspun on both of those points, George, because I think it's really key. And it is stuff that we've been talking about. And you can speak to this in a way that very few others can, because you know what was there when you left Vancouver City Hall. You know what's there now, and
Mm-hmm.
you have that POV. And the importance of understanding the inner workings. It's very confusing for most of us. I count myself as somebody who's caught up on a lot of this because of you, because you're able to sort of, but you're able to look at this and
Yeah.
say,
Okay.
so October 15th, 2022, your birthday,
Whoop,
is
whoop.
when we go to the polls, we're going to need to vote in or out council and the mayor. And you don't have to check every box. You can just vote for who you know and who you follow.
Mm-hmm.
That's an important note for those of us who aren't, a mile deep,
Yes.
an
Do
inch wide, a mile
4.
deep,
Do
but
3. Do 1.
right. But what do you do when you have a council that you're not satisfied with, and then you're staring down a list of names of new possibilities who you're
Mm-hmm.
unfamiliar with? Because being unfamiliar and just voting by party and making it mishmash because everybody clearly people disliked the idea of a powerful majority like Vision had, where deals were made before they even got to council chambers. Therefore, there's this mishmash
Mm-hmm.
of councillors that can barely get anything achieved because they're all fighting with each other across their party lines. How do you then what strategy should a voter take into the booth next municipal election, right?
Uh, well, in this election, most other cities, it is a slate of independents. There is no party politics in most other cities across
Most.
this province. It's very unusual. Surrey has it. Vancouver has it. Most of them are not. There are some alignment and funding and support, say from the union groups of specific people that align. And I would say that in Vancouver, the opportunity, there was an attempt, and I was somewhat involved in an attempt by a bunch of independents to run, who I thought were good people and should be running, and I helped them out as much as I could. But none
Yeah.
of them won. The mayor won, who I would not have supported, but it was a mess of an election. So we ended up with what was people's wishes, a mixture of people. We had a majority, well, with the 5 NPA, but they couldn't get their act together because they had no leadership. If Ken Sim had done his job and run a proper campaign, he might have been the mayor, and now he's trying again. I'm not sure why. The guy couldn't win when he should have won, and he thinks he can win when he can't. But anyways, that's another story altogether. So I think there's an opportunity in this next election because of exactly what you're saying is people are just going, oh, I just want good people. And so
Yeah.
a slate of independents who say, look at us. I like this person. I don't know if we're all going to get along all the time, but we have a basic belief in the city of what we have here. And we want to help. We want to make it. We don't want to sit here and play party politics. We don't want to have gamemanship. We don't want to put 200 motions on the floor. What we want to do is take a look at the budget. We want to fix this together, prioritize things that we think should be prioritized. That's what we'll start there, because that's the first thing out of the gate when you get elected is the budget. And then after that, we'll make it clear what your priorities are as an independent, but don't stray from those. Don't start doing all these other things. Say, here's what I want to achieve as an independent person in the next 4 years. That's going to be my thing, but I also will work with the rest of the team. And you got to give and take in politics. So I would say there's an opportunity for that if that group of people can communicate to the electorate what they prioritize and how they'll work together and sometimes not together, and people will trust them. It's the lack of trust that people have right now in this council and this mayor that is astounding. And I thought it was bad when Vision was there. It's way worse now.
It is worse now, George, and it feels like people are exhausted by it to the point that they're checking out, which is terrifying because checking out is the opposite of what needs to happen right now. It's the informing piece, right? You need to be aware of what's happening. Don't trust the buyouts. I'm going to go back to that because I did that with the park board at the last municipal election, and
No.
every person that I voted for, by reading their bio and thinking I'm aligned with the way they'll take this, I couldn't be more disappointed in those people that I voted for. I could not be more disappointed.
Yeah.
So I'm going to look
Narrow
to,
it down to 2 or 3 people that you really like, that you
and
believe in,
that's
and
it.
just vote for them. Don't
Just
worry
vote
about
for
anybody
them.
else. Don't put 10 on
Don't
the
try and
ballot.
don't try and fill in the blanks because you feel like you should be casting a ballot for each name that's
If
on there. I
everybody
think
did
that's
that and they found the 3 or 4 or 5 good people, if everybody just really honed in and said, I just want to find 3 or 4 good people for council,
yeah.
and then you would have a whole bunch of good people who would win because the crap would just kind of disappear because nobody would, oh, that's crap, nobody should vote for that guy, and they won't. And the weight will go towards the good ones.
Okay, I want to shift gears here because there are a couple other topics that we want to get to for sure. Quickly, let's go to the Surrey police piece of this because we've been
Yeah.
talking Metro Vancouver, but
It's just like how many 200 police they need to hire, and they're being told they can't hire them now, so they can't steal anymore. And then the math, and I heard Bill Thielman this morning on CKNW with Mike Smith talking about this, and they've got this referendum, they've got to 42,000, and they have the right. The province probably should call it, and maybe they'll put it on the ballot in the next election. And I think it would probably, Bill Thielman has a very successful track record of winning referendums. I worked with him on one on the No Pro Rep campaign. Believe me,
yeah.
he knows what he's doing. I think there's it's really the biggest thing that, and I've always said this, that budget's not right. That budget is no way. We know what the city of Vancouver's budget is for their police force. It's it's going to be like for Surrey, it's going to be 30% of your budget. So whatever your budget is, just assume in the future it's going to be 30% of that. And because you're only paying right now a lot less than that, you just have to add that couple $100 million or whatever onto the current budget. How much is that per taxpayer? Well, it's generally about $7 million, depending on the population per percentage point. So that's a lot of tax that they're going to have to add in Surrey. And Surrey is it's not like Vancouver. It's not as dense as Vancouver as far as population. It will surpass Vancouver eventually in about 10 years, I think, population-wise. But it's mostly single-family homes, not
Now
towers.
imagine living in Surrey or where I grew up in Tsawwassen and attending school at UBC and trying to get there every day to and from without a vehicle
I
because
grew up in
having a
the
vehicle,
valley. I
right?
grew
You
up in
know
the
what?
valley. That's why, yeah, my friends would go from Langley to UBC in their cars because there was no transit. There still isn't transit to UBC. I went to SFU, no transit there really, except for buses, which if you ever taken a bus from Langley or White Rock to
Yeah.
SFU or to UBC, it's not fun. So you drive. And if you grew up in the valley, you generally drive as much as you possibly can anyways, because that's just the culture. How do we get people out of cars, though? I wonder.
Hmm. Hmm. Did you
Oh.
read that column? You read that column. Well,
Ugh,
I
it's
was
Patrick
like,
Condon.
but
Don't get me
who?
started.
Can you please explain? Okay, so first of all, let's parse out quickly, I guess, what's in this. It was an argument against extending the Broadway subway line beyond Arbutus out to UBC because that would inflate land values so that the people who need to live at UBC can't afford to live at UBC, and it'll only make more room on streets for cars. So the argument against public transit to the biggest university in the
Mm-hmm.
province and one of the largest universities in the country um, shouldn't have a subway stop at it because it's bad for the people who go to the university. I was reading
Okay.
it going,
It just drives me crazy. There's several things. First of all, let's forget about the whole supply, demand, housing, affordability. Don't Let's just not go there because it's too complicated. It distorts the whole argument of why we build
distort.
transit.
Good word, distort.
Transit is about getting people around. We have a population that's growing. You can deny it if you want, but it's growing every year. We have UBC specifically, and you look at Jericho, a population increase over the next several generations, 20 years, of up to 40,000 more people will be living in that area.
Yeah.
Then we have the people who actually go to UBC to go there. Just as an example for those people who don't believe in transit, there are two things that I know for a fact. That one is in Vancouver, we'll never meet our green goals without public transit. We just can't. It won't. The GHGs, the greenhouse gas emissions, will not go down without transit, public transit, mass transit. That's not a bus poking along Broadway. Transit that can take 1,000 people and get them going, and there's a train every 3 minutes.
Transit,
Bam,
not
bam. No.
yeah.
Vancouver, if we hadn't built the Expo line, you know how big the highway would be to Surrey right now? It'd be it had to be, and you can't even do it. It would have to be 12 lanes to meet the demand that the Expo line from Surrey replaces. People like taking the train. They don't like taking buses. That's a fact. Ask yourself that question. Which would you rather go? A nice train that goes fast and up above the ground?
I'll answer that question. I'll answer that question as somebody who lived in a suburb as a teenager, and young adult, and had to take the South Delta 601 to and from Tsawwassen, which was laborious at best and just tragic at worst. It was just horrifying when full. I just can't even. I've got PTSD about it, I swear. But getting past the tunnel, that we don't have some sort of transit that gets just to the south end of the Massey Tunnel.
It's so
and
close.
That we're even quibbling about the subway going to UBC. Like, I was shocked when the plan stopped at Arbutus. That to me was like, why would you stop there? I mean,
not to mention the UBC and the group that's doing the whole plan for Jericho are willing to pitch in and pay for a big chunk of it. And some of it will come through development to pay for that. The money's got to come from somewhere. It's not magic.
We need homes. We need houses. We need development. Do we not? Like, we talked about that.
The population in Vancouver grows by 1% every year, whether you like it or not. It always has.
The value of our homes goes up because of supply right now. That's what's happening. More people want to buy a place than there are places to buy.
But also, if my kids who can't afford to live in Vancouver want to buy in Brentwood or want to buy in Surrey,
Lavender.
Guess what? But they want to come visit me. Guess how they're going to come visit me? They're going to take the train.
Yeah.
I mean, I had to move to East Van when I bought my first place in Vancouver. And I was living downtown. I thought, oh boy, I have to move all the way to East Van.
All the way. To the other side of the tracks.
If it was now, I would move to New Westminster to buy my first place. Based on the math that I understand from what I paid for my first place in 1995, what I was making at CBC, it was the math, I'd have to go a lot further now, but that means I need a way to get here to go to work. Because most of the jobs are in either Broadway or downtown Vancouver. Majority of jobs in this region. Those are two biggest, most employment-rich neighborhoods in the entire province. And you're arguing over whether or not we should have mass transit to these places. It's insane.
It does. It shocks me. We haven't even, you know what? We are 29 minutes into our podcast and we have not mentioned COVID-19 yet.
Well, I know Amanda left for the UK yesterday and made it, but man, the tests she had to take. Yeah. Lots of new tests. She's down in quarantine, I think, now for a couple of days until she gets her test back. It's complicated, and this variant, just for people to just get some perspective, go back and look at the headlines of Delta. Remember Beta. Let's just stay calm and wait for the science.
And that's the part that I'd like to address here is because there was a conversation on Twitter where people were like, great, Dr. Henry is going to keep sporting events and concerts going, but this new variant. And, I just thought, what are you talking about? Like, did you watch the briefing? Because what she said was continue what we're doing now. Vaccination rates in this province are exceptional.
90% almost.
90% almost.
Amazing.
And in the front line, in the healthcare sector, Health Minister Adrian Dix was talking about it being 98%. Like we're doing really well here. The places that are going to really suffer with Omicron, the new variant that is more transmissible, are places that are lower vaccination rates. And that's the big message, I think, from public health right now. If you are the vaccine hesitant individual who does, who's like, was making a stand, just going to wait and see, now's the time.
Or afraid. Look what happened. How many people died yesterday? Seven people died yesterday?
7 people died
and
yesterday.
90% of those people dying and those numbers are higher than they were a year ago because the variant is stronger.
Right.
And it's easier to catch. So the death rates are much higher as a percentage of the total. There's a reason for that. So get your vaccination. And
it's under immunized or unimmunized people who are suffering most severe illness or worst possible outcomes. And when the people want to argue the breakthrough cases, the majority of breakthrough cases that are in vaccinated people, fully vaccinated people, are over the age of 70 and an underlying health issue. So it's like, wrap your head around the science of this and don't panic. And stay up to, I was watching Dr. Peter Hotez today, who's a great resource, by the way. He brings much calm. He basically reiterated, and he speaks to the United States part of this because only 57% of Americans are fully immunized. And he's talking about this likely being a 3-dose vaccine scenario. To consider yourself fully immunized, it will be 3-dose, particularly if you got your vaccines close together, which most Americans who are vaccinated did. I did because I was an early vaccinated citizen because of all the reasons we've talked about. But those who had the more distance between their first 2 doses will have slower waning, says the professor. And then that 3rd dose likely will complete the set and will likely, the science is still incoming, but from his vaccinologist perspective, it will likely be protective enough against Omicron. It takes the Pfizer vaccine, he said, from 95% protective from severe illness, hospitalization, or death to 90%. So not as effective for sure, but still vaccines are the best defense, period. So I wanted to make sure that that was very clear. Read my column. It's one that's just about how health-wise, a couple of people have been talking about just the overindulgence and having an extra couple of cocktails that we might have been doing the last 21 months. I know certainly when we were staying home and making puzzles, I was having
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what
earlier gin o'clock. Well, the stats show that in the last calendar year, British Columbians purchased 12 million liters more liquor than pre-COVID-19.
That's just my house, I think.
I know. Well, it adds up a lot. Anyway, so there's some food for thought, if you will, for the holiday season.
Check it out.
Don't go dry January. That's it. The Orca.ca, George. Affleck on Twitter, at George underscore Affleck, because we like an underscore in there, at Jody Vance on Twitter. We went a little long today, but we had a lot to cover off. We didn't even get to some of the stuff we want to talk about. Well, that'll just give us a reason to tune in next week here on UnSpun.
100%. Bye.